We are live.
We are,
Okay.
Angel. We
Hello.
are.
Hello, Syl. Hello, Brain. And hello and welcome everyone who is watching and who are going to watch recorded because we have seen a lot of activities there in our recorded videos also, which is so wonderful to see that more people are coming and joining us. It's so wonderful you guys are watching. But what more will be wonderful if you interact, if you ask, if you share. We are so open and so keen for sharing, capital S sharing. If you share your perspective, if you share your thoughts, your feedbacks, that will be most wonderful for us. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm just saying thanks, not in only because that, okay, oh, you are watching our things. No, it is just for me to understand and to be in that value in sharing is the most generous, most act you can do for anyone. And this is what I feel thankful for anyone.
Yes.
It's not about that, okay, you have to be there physically or you have to join on Facebook. No, just seeing the value, acknowledging, appreciating. It is most wonderful for me. So today's we're going to be, of course, capital R reading. Even if we don't read or reread any paragraph from the story, is still what we discuss is completely, absolutely relevant and connected to the story. Because
always,
the story is written in this way to actually encompass everything, every aspect of our life, almost. We can, if we try to search for, we can find a solution, or not a solution, but a resolution, to be precise, and also to find a way which seems sensible according to us. We can find that and we can relate to. That's why every day is a capital R reading, no matter we read any line from the story itself or not. Everything is connected, everything is relevant and pertinent. Just before we come here, we were discussing that we have this desire innately to be special. Like humans, and of course other species also, at least what I observe, they also want to be special, especially in dogs and cats. You can observe because they are most common domestic pets, and you can see this behavior. They want to feel special too. Your pets, they want to, they do things just to get some appreciation, acknowledgement. And we share this trait with pets also, the humans also. We want to be special. And in every relationship.
Aggravated by culture.
Yes.
Norma's here already. Brilliant, Norma.
Hello,
Brilliant,
Norma.
brilliant,
Hello,
brilliant,
Norma.
brilliant,
Hello, Norma.
brilliant. Hello,
And
hello,
welcome.
Norma.
We want to be special in every aspect of our life. Like, and then it is, of course, as Syl was saying, that okay, it has been magnified and entrenched more from external cueing also. Because look, again, our education system is based on, oh, you have to, if you have a good memory, then you will get good grades and then you will become special. It's first thing. Second, then, okay, oh, if you do good thing, if you are an obedient child, if you are respectful, if you are good in your sports and other extracurricular activities and in your education, then your parents treat you in a different way, which is also just being special, which cue us to do more and to do anything, at least, and whatever it is, just do anything to be more special. This is external cueing. And also sometimes we get into our very true and very innate expression, but we get this muddled idea. Instead of expressing yourself and your expression, your thoughts, feelings, and desires in form of art, sometimes we get trapped into the desire of being special. Look how wonderful I am. I can make these things. Oh, look how wonderful I am. How special I am. And the most amazing, or the most, I must say that disastrous aspect of this, we get into relationship because we want to feel special.
Yes, Yes.
This
Yes.
is the
Yes.
most
Yes.
horrible thing
Yes.
we can do and we do for ourselves,
Yes.
because
To
this
broaden
become our
that, we
innate.
compromise in order to be special, to make it
Yes,
more overall. Because it's not only the relationship's not the particular issue; it's the symptom, right? It's the application of it,
yes,
right?
yes.
Ah,
We assume that being loved means being special and unique
right. But
and
it's not.
and will have extra or other or the different treatment than others. This is the idea of love we have.
No.
Inclusivity, this is the word I guess they use for that. This is the understanding of it, which for me is almost like a worship thing. Because when you do worship, you just keep doing everything and anything just to get some acknowledgement from your
Oh,
ideal.
huh.
So this is
Very
not
interesting.
love. This is a very one-sided thing. Because
Yes.
if
Yes.
if I am satisfied in myself, if I'm content in myself, if I have this peace of being, me just being me is enough. Me just being
Yes.
me will be enough in every
Yes.
relationship, in any relationship.
Yes.
If I will love
Yes.
someone, I want that person to love and respect me as who I am, because I want to love them as who they are and respect them as who they are.
Yes. Yes.
Of course, some adjustment always needed, because again, it's about appropriateness. Because
Yes.
two individuals, two independent, living their life, and suddenly they start communicating more and interacting more, or maybe okay, even just living together, you need to have to adjust with their space also. So, but
Well,
that adjustment is not because that I want to be accepted, I want to be acknowledged, I want to be appreciated, I want to be treated special. No, it is because it is appropriate to do so. But the basic desire to be loved and to love is something needs to be very clear.
yes.
Being a
Yes.
special, I personally feel that comes out from the idea of worshipping.
Very interesting. Oh, it's a hierarchical point. It's a completely hierarchical point.
And
And this
from both
point,
sides, even
exactly.
who is
Yeah,
surrendering, even who is worshipping, they also have a superiority mindset,
exactly.
not only the
Exactly.
other person. And that's how we cue each other. I'm just including
Yeah,
myself. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that in the way that okay, other people are doing that.
yeah,
No, I'm just sharing my understanding and I'm including myself into this. Like whoever do that, and it is very easy to get into this thing, this idea
yeah, yeah,
of being special, want to be special. Being
yeah,
special is
yeah,
different, but
yeah,
want to be special. And this becomes a cause of mostly it is a cause of breaking of relationships, because
yeah,
everybody,
yeah,
both of them at least, okay, or whoever, wants to be special. But if we compare and if we get really clear about these things and get real, only one can be special at one
yeah,
time, and that's a problem, and that becomes a
yeah,
big
yeah,
problem,
yeah,
and it sabotage everything.
yeah, yeah. Very big
Because
deal.
first we start comparing with other people, like, okay, oh yes, okay, I'm special for this person. So I'm comparing myself, okay, with their family, with their friends, with everyone. But when we get that, the desire is still there. Then we start comparing our own
Yeah,
specialty or being special with that person also.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then it
yeah,
becomes a problem.
yeah, yeah. Let's pay some attention here
Yes.
to like we did to judgment. Yes. Well, a couple of terms that we used: love and worship. Now, as we were saying yesterday and on Sunday, this point about judgment, right? And I've written articles about it. The peculiar judging of judgment, right? It's a word that's used meaning one thing, but when we think about it, it actually means a bit more, right? And that's the problem. We need to start paying attention to that moreness that when we think about it. I saw a joke about the Flat Earth Society. It was a screenshot of on the Flat Earth Society. They posted this and they said, the Flat Earth Society has members all around the globe. Right? Somebody wasn't thinking about what they were saying. Yeah, it's humorous, but whoever wrote that didn't think about it, right? Didn't put it together two and two. Now, the very idea of flat Earth is likewise the same. If Earth is flat, then what is it? Infinite? How come we don't experience this infinity? Then we can go around the world. We don't fall off the edge, etc. But it's taken as a one-step logic. Why? Because when I look around me, the earth looks flat to me. Yeah, it's that one-step thinking. We have to be very, very, very careful about this one-step thinking. It will get us into trouble. Right now, when we apply one-step thinking to judgment, yes, judgment, it's only recently become an issue. I watched this over the years, right? Where the internet has made judgment a dirty word. It never was, right? It's only a recent thing, but it's so pervasive that, if you don't remember before when it wasn't, you say, well, what do you mean it wasn't? No, it's a recent thing. Now, what do they mean? They say, oh, judgment, don't judge me, don't judge, don't judge, don't judge. They really mean don't judge me. Yes, but like I was explaining, we have to judge, otherwise we'd have no morals. We'd have no discernment. We'd get ourselves into trouble. We need to use judgment in a very physical way to determine if things are safe, if things are valuable, if things are worthwhile, if things are worth the energy expenditure, etc., etc. We cannot get away from judgment. And the most amusing thing is that when you say don't judge, that's a judgment, right?
Yes.
You can't get away from judging. It's intrinsic, right? So what it really means is don't judge me. Now, my point here is about two-step, three-step, more step thinking, not just a one-step thinking, right? If we take judge to only be in that particular context of judging others, that's inappropriate, yes, but I must judge for myself. That's appropriate, right? So we have to have this ability to discern contextually and look at the motivations in the. I can't say what's right for you. Only you can, because only you can determine what effort is worth the reward. That's it. If you like being lazy and you don't want to make an effort, I personally, when I judge myself, I say, laziness not good. But if for you it's a real great massive effort to do things, then I say, well, laziness is appropriate for you. See, just because it's appropriate for me doesn't necessarily make it appropriate for you. Who knows? You may just suffer from extreme low energy or whatever. Who knows, right? We don't know what's going on inside other people as much as we like to think we do. Right. So this is a very important point. But I want to focus on this point about multi-layered thinking. When we apply this, it also needs to be applied to things like love. And the other main concept for today is what was the other concept here? Beena?
Yes.
You were
Yes.
saying, what were you talking about? What is the core concept of what you're saying?
Being special.
There we go. Now, when we look at love and being special and worship, particularly, we just take this concept of worship completely and utterly for granted. Whoever questions worship, I've never in all my life, and I cannot say, or I can say without, any kind of exaggeration, that I've had exposure to a great many ideas and perspectives. I made a whole big reading project of reading all the classics in literature and art, religion, you name it, right? Nowhere have I ever seen anybody question the validity of the concept of worship. Now, in my Council of the Gods story, this does come up, right? because in that story, I'm used the old gods from all around the world, not just many from Greek mythology, because that's very influential in Western culture, but I use them from all around the world. And at some point, those gods, this is the essence of the story. These gods kind of they wake up a bit. They come to be aware that, wow, we are just ridiculous. We are absurd. We are like maximum super special BMNs, right? We just dreadful people. In terms of being just me, and abuse of power, etc. Part of that is they come to realize this concept of worship is absolutely preposterous. What is the concept of worship but saying you special, you special, you special? What is the concept of worship but ego feeding? At its root, this is what it is, right? Worship is feeding the ego. When you look at egomaniacs, this is their ultimate, is to be worshipped. So in the creation of the religions from a superiority paradigm psychology, they assume that what they think is the most ideal, absolute, maximum possible thing that they could have personally, they ascribe this to their deity. I made a comment, a post, I have a quote somewhere about this. No self-respecting deity would ever, ever think worship is an ideal. It's not something that they would seek. They don't need to be validated. They don't need to be approved, especially by, some trivial petty human compared to them. It's like, what does your approval matter to me? It's idiotic. It's totally, and the idea that you need it, that as part, this is what defines a religion, by the way, is the concept of worship. So it makes a difference from a philosophy. It's worship that makes the difference, right? But if you think of it from an ego specialness point of view, you realize, wow, I'm just telling my God that or my deity, I'm just telling it that, hey, you special, you wonderful, fantastic, I'm just giving it approval. It's just ego stroking, right, in its essence. Now I can hear some buts coming from someone like Beena, who is very devout. He says, yeah, but that's not my worship. My worship is about appreciation. That's a different story, Beena. But worship in its essence is about this approval giving specialness, right? Appreciation is something else entirely. Yes. Now it is conflated somewhat in the word, but the essence of the concept of worship is to say you are wonderful, you are special, you are fantastic. It's not inherently connected to appreciation and thankfulness, right? That's something else, right? I mean, it's combined for some, because it just the way things work out. But that's reverence, is really appreciation, combined with understanding things are holy, which is again making it special. Yes, holiness is a specialness of a kind, right? To say that it has influence from the divine, this is, or connected to the divine, this is what makes things holy, is the divine connection, as opposed to just being wonderful, right? Something that's not holy, right? So it's extra specialness. But when we really look at this very carefully, we see this influence. And to my mind, and to the new nobility perspective, the corruption of the superiority paradigm, which turns a beautiful thing, the thing of appreciating and loving everything, into an ego orientated act, both loving and being loved, right? To say, oh, I love you. This is like the greatest thing ever, supposedly, to hear. Why? If I'm secure within myself, why do I need to hear that I'm loved? If you love me, you love me. That's wonderful and that's great and I enjoy it. But I don't need it, right? Because I have independence of being. But if you're insecure, of course you need to hear that you loved, because this is validation that your insecurity is unfounded. But you know the truth. You're insecure because you know there's underlying truths inside there that that mm, you know you're not quite as wonderful as you like to believe. Yeah. This is the reason for insecurity. There's flaws, there's holes, there's stuff you need to work on. Being loved by somebody does not remove those problems. Yeah? If you, in other words, for instance, if you're insecure because, let's say, you're lazy to learn, which this is a common thing for many, right? They don't want to make the effort to learn, right? They just like to believe, I'm enough, I'm more than enough, I'm okay as I am. That's not the reality. You need to learn, and you know this, but you don't want to make that effort because your ego is so big that you can't possibly handle this idea that if I'm learning, that means I didn't know. And if I didn't know, that's bad, I'm wrong, I'm ignorant, I'm stupid, whatever. Let it go, for heaven's sake, man. It doesn't mean you're stupid if you don't know. It just means you don't know, right? This is superiority paradigm confusion and just nonsense, right? And that's why those like egomaniacs, narcissists, that's why they don't know anything, because they can't learn, because they have to acknowledge that they don't know in order to learn, and they cannot do this. They cannot acknowledge they don't know. It's impossible for them. So they're stuck. And as they go on, they just become more and more aware of how hollow they are. And you look at any narcissist, you see this inherently, they're all massively, massively, massively insecure. Right? All their nonsense is to cover up that insecurity. Right. So now we're coming to these points of let's look a little bit deeper and understand that what we think things are is sometimes only a portion of it, a fraction of it. We have to look further. Yes, we've been taught to worship, 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 right? This is the be all and end all. This is the most wonderful thing. But think about it a bit. If I need worship, then I'm insecure. If I want and need worship, I'm insecure. Right? Very, very powerful point. So we want to really, really understand this point about specialness. I don't need to be special in order to be happy, right? To bring it full circle, right? I don't need to be worshipped to be happy. And for most, love is just a diplomatic and a socially appropriate way of saying worship. Most people that I know, all right, in general now, right, when they say love and you ask really what they mean, what they want is ideal in their ideal partnership is to be worshipped. No, to be loved is to be appreciated in your fullness, to be enjoyed in your fullness. Yes, warts and all, warts and all, right? I mean, people love their dogs. I've seen some massively ugly dogs, and people just love those dogs, right? They don't care that the dog is wonderfully ugly. Yes, see, that's love, right? Now you can like your dog because it's ugly, but you can't get over the fact that somebody else might love you and see you as ugly too, and not care. No, ego's too big for that, right? So we have to understand this, right? I mean, and your dog, it does all sorts of ridiculous, stupid stuff, right? That's it, but you love it anyway. Yes, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing, love. It's a wonderful thing, love. Love is the ability to enjoy despite flaws. Make no difference, right? Love transforms our perception of what is a flaw, and we don't see it. I mean, those ugly dogs, to those people, they're beautiful. See? So love changes perception, and perception is something that is an ascribed value. It's very important to understand. Yes, for the most part, when it comes to abstract qualities, like for instance, beauty, this is an ascribed value. We deem things to be beautiful. Love can change what we deem to be beautiful. Yes, this is the magic and wonder and awesome and brilliance of love. It's a fantastic thing. It changes our perception of reality. Yes. And there is no fixed reality in the abstract things. Maybe in physical things, yes, but in the abstract, no. Yeah, like things like beauty, for instance. Yeah, this is purely arbitrary, purely, purely arbitrary. And love changes that to be in something that's valuable and useful to us. Right? Very practical. But if we have the ego that says, I have to be special, I have to be special, I have to be special, you're never going to find love. You might get worship, yes, but worship is a one-sided thing and it's pretty hollow. Yes. Now, if you've ever actually been worshipped, right, or like like Euro worshipped, yeah, not worship in a prayer way, but like somebody thinks you the bomb and special and you can do the wrong and all this. I gotta tell you, I have experienced this, and it is dreadful. It is absolutely, utterly dreadful because it's a distortion. It is a distortion, and there's no independence. That that those that Euro worship people, they're so dependent, and they become like a leech that clings and sucks. It's not fun. It's not fun at all, right? So what people want, and if they actually were to get it, sometimes they would be quite horrified to realize, oh my goodness, this is quite dreadful, right? It's very interesting. Now, I'm making this bigger point about looking a little deeper, right? To tie into Beena's point that everything is capital R reading. Capital R reading is looking at the layers, right? Looking at the depth, looking at the underneath. Yes. And this we need to do with everything, particularly with conceptions and concepts. Yes. Concepts like love, like worship. Yes. We have to understand this, look a little deeper. Don't just be shallow. If you just take things on the shallow surface and the obvious, you're going to get into trouble, right? Yeah. It's not going to work in a bigger context. Yeah. Yeah. Very important. Just don't assume that what is the first step is obviously truthfully so, like the judgment thing. When we think it through a little bit, it all implodes. Yes. Can't get away from judgment. To say, don't judge me. Judging is bad. That's a judgment. You're judging. So don't say that. If you truly mean it, don't say it. Right? It's an oxymoron, in other words, conundrum. Yeah. Very, very powerful. Yes, Beena, any comments?
Oh, it's very interesting, and it's just getting more interesting for me. The idea of, or the clarity of worship, the worship mindset. Again, it is connected to superiority paradigm, but there are some nuances also into this,
Yeah.
other than just the superiority,
Yeah.
which makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, I was thinking about when you were saying that.
Sorry, just interrupt you real quick. Elder thought, please, Beena. I know you can. Yes, a flat globe,
Right?
exactly, Norma, exactly. Norma says cats are perfect, and cats know they are perfect and are entitled to be worshipped. Yeah, cats have fantastic superiority paradigm cueing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If we are all from the same creator, if we are all part of the same creation, if we are all part of everything, how can you worship something else and not yourself included? See, the whole idea of worship is just ego feeding. Yes, but we can appreciate, and this is it. If you love God and you think God is everything, then you are part of that everything. So therefore, you have to love yourself. See, think it through to the end. Yeah, yeah. Very important point, Norma. Very important point. Go ahead, please, Norma. Go ahead. I mean, Beena and Norma.
I was just saying about love. When I was trying to figure it out by myself, that what is love.
Hmm.
Uh, the only thing I was able to feel some resolution of this question, that what is love is a state of being where we feel wholesome, we feel complete. We don't need anything. We don't desire any more into that specific way. Of course, there is always more. If we don't feel that urge, that that starvation, or that drive to get more, where we feel so content in our own being. This
Hmm.
is what the love feeling is, and that's why I personally feel that everybody wants to stay in that feeling where we feel complete, where we feel that wholesome. At the same time, we feel that our heart, mind, soul, everything is just working optimum. They are together. There is no friction. There is no contradiction in between. We are complete in our own being. This is where this is a glimpse of those feelings we get when we, that was the most amazing feeling. That was the most amazing feeling without any external cueing. We feel that from within, and that is the magic of love for me. So there is no just need to worship, to be special, because we feel so content in our own self. We don't want to, we don't need to be
Exactly.
anything other than who we are. This is
Exactly.
the true
Exactly.
state of love for me, being in love for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
else become irrelevant for you.
Yeah. 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 Very important, Beena. Very, very, very important. Yeah. Very powerful, Beena. Very magically powerful. So the key point here is just think a bit about things. Not just accept them as they are. Think a bit, think a bit, think a bit about things. Yes. Pay attention, pay attention. Don't assume and don't just believe whatever you hear. Think about it for yourself. Right? Think it through to the end. These are up this one particular skill is an incredibly profound skill. Incredibly profound skill, right? Makes a huge difference to everything. Yes. Makes a huge difference. It's a very, very, very big deal. Very big deal. Very, very, very big deal. Yeah, changes everything. Thinking things through to the end. And also to perspective shift to multiple perspectives. Yes. We assume there's only one way of looking at things. No, there are many, many ways of looking at things, and they all change everything. And this is the point of the entire story, or one of the many, many marvelous, wonderful points, right? This understanding of multiple perspectives and how this can profoundly change how we are. Yes. In this, that when we truly understand the magic of perspective shifting, we can say, man, this is a magical power ability. We used to go around and people were just people. Yes, right, Beena? At one point, this is it. People were just people.
Yes.
But now we have this concept of angels, pure angels, right? However you wish to conceive of angels, it doesn't matter. The underlying point is they are marvelous, wonderful beings devoted to goodness. Yes, I think this is a definition that we could say anybody can adopt, regardless of your religious views, because these are angels before the time of religion, right? So they
Yes.
represent beings that are devoted to goodness. Angel, just a word. You can choose any word. You can make them aliens if you want. You can make them centaurians, or I don't know, Figlonians. I don't know, whatever you want, right? That's it. Call them
Yes.
anything, doesn't matter. Just beings. You can just call them energy, doesn't matter. When you look at people as beings that are doing what's not necessarily nice, but is inherently good. When you accept this premise, your entire relationship changes. Why? Because you've shifted your perspective. And shifting your perspective now changes your perception. Now, suddenly, people aren't just people. Now, suddenly, people are instruments of good. And now the challenge becomes not how to deal with the nonsense that you get from people. No, the challenge now becomes to see the goodness. Oh, I don't see it. Why are they kind of pushing my button here? What are they doing? Oh, I see. Oh, it's to make me think a bit more. Or whatever it is, right? There's always some lesson of awareness. Those lessons are always intimately personal. Here's the key, though. We need to be excruciatingly and exquisitely self honest in order to see those lessons. If you've got an ego, you don't want to acknowledge that you need to learn to be a bit more patient, a little bit more tolerant, a little bit more this, whatever. Whatever you need to learn, if you've got an ego, it pushes back against learning. Ego doesn't want to acknowledge it needs to learn because ego says, I'm special. And because I'm special, I'm perfect, I'm fantastic, that's it. Yeah. This is ego's illusion. This is ego's delusion. Profound delusion of ego to insist that it has to be perfect in order to be loved. Ah, come on, really. And also this idea that ego has to be loved in order to be validated. Ego, come on, dude. Really, wake up. You don't have to be loved in order to be happy. You can just be happy because you choose to be. See? Belief systems. But that have to be loved. This comes from the insecurity of the narcissist, of the superiority paradigm. It's a skewed, distorted belief. You don't need to be loved to be happy. If you are loved, this is a joy. This is a bonus. It's an extra. But you don't have to have it. Yes. With or without love, you can be happy. Yes. And that's the independence of being that we're seeking to be. Yes. Because if you can only be happy because you're being loved, are you not now dependent? And the universe, sorry, just survival evolution, it will push back against any kind of dependency. Because the moment you're dependent, it affects your survival and affects your evolution. Because dependency makes you vulnerable. See, we've got to think it all the way through to the end. This is why being dependent on love for your happiness will never work. The universe will push back against and say, don't be dependent. Why? Because you're making yourself vulnerable. Yes, not ideal. The universe wants the best for you. Well, instead of universe, you can say God, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Nantu, whoever you like. And then I can hear Nantu say, hey, don't be including me in that stuff now. Come on. They're putting all this stuff on me. I want to break free from that, Nantu says. I'm looking to learn and grow just like you. Yeah. Just because I have powers doesn't mean that I don't need to learn and grow. And this is Nantu speaking now. But anyway, see, anyway, my point is that we need to understand this and understand that we cannot see love as a necessity. It's a joy, but not a necessity for our happiness. Yes. At least not the reception of love. To love. This is just appreciation in its most beautiful, wonderful form. That, yes, that's a part of our happiness, but not being loved. That's a dependency. That's a vulnerability, and it's dangerous. Yeah? Yeah? That makes sense when I'm saying it's dangerous?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I find it most remarkable. Most remarkable. Right? All of this. Just all from your marvelous share, Beena. What a marvelous share. Oh, very powerful, Beena. Very, very powerful.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt you, sir, but
No problem.
can you please just for a minute respond to someone who is asking? I respond to them, and now they are asking. Oh,
Oh,
Chris.
all right. Where in on eBay?
On Marketplace.
Marketplace. Okay, I'll check in a moment. I just want to say good day, everyone, says Cheryl. Did I just tune into Way-of-Impeccability, perspective shifting, thinking it? Yes, it's all part of it, Cheryl. The entire new nobility story is a story about the application of, among other things, Way-of-Impeccability. It's also the application of things like capital D diplomacy. It's also the things about the application of a particular choice of being, which is nobility. Choice of being. But in all, rather than the intent of the story was, I was being pushed to write out my philosophy, which is an extensive, comprehensive philosophy, the philosophy of appropriateness, the A+ philosophy, etc. Right? And instead of writing it out and having a big, long, boring text, I said, no. One of the core elements of my philosophy is practicality, application. So I said, I'm going to apply this in a fictional setting, right? The underlying concepts are very real and very powerful, but and the fictional setting allows me to apply them and show them, right? And to make it fun. But still, it's about application. So this is why you are hearing this, because we are applying it. Yes, we are demonstrating that. Truth must always be a partner throughout life, says Norma, through life. Truth can be good or bad, depending on how we look at it. Exactly. And when we say, rather than say good or bad, Norma, I would rather say truth is always good, right? However, it's not always nice. It can be not nice or nice, depending on how we look at it. But when we insist on seeing the deeper good in that not nice, then we start to connect to the good of it, and that not nice starts to transform into nice. Perspective shifting in context. See, we can see things in a small bubble context, and we can go a little bit bigger. In the small bubble context of good or bad, well, it's positive or negative. In the bigger context, it's all good. It's all positive. Why? Because I learn from it. In the smaller context, it's actually not nice and pleasant sometimes, or sometimes it is pleasant. But I can transform the not nice into nice through connecting to the good. Yeah, or at least ameliorate it somewhat. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. All right, Cheryl, I'm thrilled that you're here, Cheryl. I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm thrilled that you're here. That self-honesty and thinking things through to the end, perspective shifting, key tools, not only of Way of Impeccability, but of course for the new nobility. The entire society is absolutely premised on these tools, these concepts. Now, they go a little further. We have to understand this, that the story of the new nobility is a double story or triple or multi-layered story. On the one hand, it is about the application and living with um, um, Way of Impeccability, living with an understanding of the superiority paradigm, living using capital H hearing and all that encompasses, which is things like making space, appreciation, energy management in an extreme way, right? Sharing of energy, all of this, right? Capital H hearing is a profound understanding of capital S sharing. Let me just say thank you to Amazon. Thank you, Amazon. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Oh, okay. Anyway, so this is the on the one part, right? It is about, hey, Beena, you didn't tell me about my background. Thank you. Not that it's a big deal. I just like to see the full picture. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. It's not your responsibility. um, um, So on the one hand, Way of Impeccability is about application of things. Sorry, the new nobility story is about showing in a feasible way the application of all of those different elements, right? Way of Impeccability, understanding of the superiority paradigm, capital H hearing, capital D diplomacy, and other skills. However, there's an extra layer of moreness. It is saying this is a society, a voluntary society, right? Because you can only join the new nobility by joining it. You don't get into it like most societies. You're born into it. No, you're not born into the new nobility. It's a voluntary society. You join in it, and the joining of it is because you have a particular desire, and that desire is learning, knowing, growing, application, doing. Plus, there is this connectivity to nobleness. It's something that resonates and connects. We can't really have a desire for nobleness. It's just an is. Yes, it just happens to be. It's not like, do you have a desire for breathing? Well, now that you say it, if I think about it, well, kind of. But if I go around in my day to day, I don't say, oh, I desire to breathe. No, we just breathe, right? It's intrinsic to us. For some, nobleness is as intrinsic as your heart beating or breathing, right? It's just something that it's just part of you. You got to do it. There's no way around it, right? So this is about a society that is in addition to this deep desire to learn and grow and to take that as far as it can go. There's also this resonance with nobleness. Yes. and the true nobleness, nothing to do with hereditary or status or ego, or, all that stuff, bloodlines and titles, none of that ego nonsense, right? It's the very opposite of that. So the name new nobility in itself, right? When it says that new nobility, it implies a need for some discernment. It implies a need for some capital R reading. And that's when you look at it, it's the very opposite pretty much of the old nobility. Yes. And the old nobility was a subversion of the concept of noble. The new nobility is the application of it in its true essence, what in other words, it should have been, but never was, right? So this is very, very, very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. Beena, does that all make sense?
Absolutely.
Very powerful. Very, very powerful stuff, right? Very, very magically powerful. Any more comments, Beena? Any more comments, Norma? Any more comments, Cheryl? This concept of the new nobility, we have to understand something very, very, very powerful here, right? It is an aspiration, not a desire. It's a very big difference. When I aspire to something, right? When I aspire, I say, I would like to get there if I can. If I can. An aspiration is qualified. Yes. I will make every effort to, but I don't assume that I can. That's why it's an aspiration. Yes. It has that implied that you may not actually achieve what you or get to be or end up where you aspire to be, right? That may or may not be. And this is why those that come to the new nobility, right, are called aspirants. You never stop being an aspirant. You become a new noble, yes, but that is to a large extent a practical matter because of the way the new nobility interact with the world. So it has a very practical point to it to be called specifically a new noble. You're representing the company, etc., or the corporation, right? You're representing the society, representing the world. So there is a standard, as it were, right? And that's important. So it's not an accomplishment in itself. The aspiration is the accomplishment, right? And pursuing that aspiration, not just having it, but actually making effort to pursue it. Now, if you actually live on Nobelia, right, as an aspirant, it would be quite impossible to not actually act on that aspiration. Yes, Beena? Do you think it would be possible to go and say, oh, I aspire to be a new noble, right? I'm an aspirant. I aspire to be noble, not a new noble. First of all, there you're going to get corrected. No new noble aspires to be a new noble. They aspire to be noble. Yes. Very big difference, right?
Yes.
Secondly, how are you going to interact when it comes to the daily Nobelia-Living, as I like to call it, because this is the representation. It's a term to represent the interactions of the society, right? What do they do on a daily basis? They share, they connect, they discern, all right? They do repeat backs, they do takeaways, they apply, they get feedback, right? They get new perspectives, they think things through to the end. If you're just sitting there listening all the time, somebody's going to notice, you know what, you never ask any questions, you're never sharing anything, and they're going to ask you questions. And if you're going to blank inside there, you're not making any effort, this is soon going to become apparent. Yes. And you are soon going to be exposed for being, somebody who doesn't want to make any effort, who just likes the idea of being an aspirant. It's not enough. Yeah. Got to apply, you got to do something. How fast you do it, this is not an issue. Everybody goes at different speeds. Some will take their whole lives to learn something that others might learn quickly. It doesn't matter. Speed is not an issue, right? Why is it not an issue? Because the new nobility understand time. Yes. In the greater context of infinity, if you do something a zillion times faster than I do in the context of infinity, a zillion compared to one is trivial. Yeah. So when you're dealing with time in that greater context, how fast you learn doesn't matter. The key is that you do learn, right? And they like slow learning because slow learning means you're learning it properly, thoroughly, intrinsically. You can apply it, it becomes innate. So they don't put a premium on fast learning. That's an ego thing. That's an ego thing. It's appropriate learning. It's thorough learning. It's learning that can be used practical. This is the focus. Without application means nothing. If you cannot use your learning, if you cannot use your learning easily, then there's no point to it. It's a waste, right? Doesn't help you. Doesn't help you. Doesn't help you. Not at the moment, Norma. What is not at the moment? Norma? Norma? I'm keen to know. I'm keen to know. See, I keep saying Norma. I feel like you're here talking to me. So I don't hear, I didn't hear any comment from you. Oh, okay.
I also thought that, okay, wait, she might be just here on chat. So that's why you were saying.
Yeah, I was relating to you, Norma, as if you're here in Zoom, because to me, you are here, you know. That's how inclusive that I feel and how it is to me. Huh? So I just love that you're here. I love that you're. That's okay, Norma. It was in the moment. You were not at the moment in the moment. Brilliant, brilliant. Any comments on what I was saying? I was kind of thinking that, I'm keen to go over the read through, but we got so wonderfully involved in what we were saying on this deeper point about specialness, understanding specialness, unpacking specialness, and specialness with its connection to worship and to ego and to insecurity and to application and to independence of beings, all connected, all connected, all connected, right? And self-honesty, of course. Right? When ego is self-honest, it starts to implode. Yes, and we see this self-honesty, like Beena. Well, Beena does it too. But Biella, when she's talking about her skill of why she's favored for the reading, she says, because I can do it justice. Now we're going to find out more later on in the story about another reason why Biella is favored to read the origin story, right? And certain other young man stories, because the origin story comes way back originally from the young man. Because it turns out that Biella is the galaxies, the agglomerations expert, foremost expert by a long shot on the young man, right? Just by happenstance and attunement, she came into contact with more of the historical, documents that survived through the centuries, and she studied those, and she's a real expert on the young man, right? So this is why she's favored, because she can do it more justice than others do. Right. Oh, Ramsey's here. Ramsey! Ramsey! Brilliant. 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 Hello, Ramsey. Hello, Ramsey. Ramsey just has a name that's just it engenders and stimulates and requires a celebratory way of saying it. Ramsey! Yes. Ramsey Nasha! I don't know. It just has that moreness to it. I don't know why, Ramsey. Just for me at least, maybe my own madness. So brilliant, brilliant. Hello, Ramsey. Long time no see. I'm thrilled you're
Yes.
here
Hello,
again.
Ramsey.
Yeah. Beena says hello too, Ramsey. Say again, please, Beena. It was kind
I
of
was
soft.
just saying hello and welcome back. It's nice to see you. Nice
Yes,
to have you here.
yes. One of the magics of our interactivity here, new nobility, Nobelia-Living interaction. There's never an expectation or an obligation. If you come, it's appreciated. If you don't come, it's assumed it's good. It's assumed it's good. Life is busy. Life has much stuff, right? Other things are more important. Other things are more valuable. We resonate. We connect to other things. Attunement takes us on different paths. There's never, ever, ever an expectation or an obligation. Yes, yes, yes. But we did miss you. We did miss you, even though at the same time, we also don't, because we assume what you were doing was good. We assume what you was doing is good and appropriate. How can I not think whatever it was appropriate for you that you were doing? I have to. Otherwise, I'm saying, well, I think Ramsey's silly. No, of course not. I think Ramsey's not at all. Ramsey is a sober, sensible individual. So whatever they were doing was appropriate. I trust that, right? Yeah. I had been too busy, but you are always in the heart. Oh, thank you, Ramsey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I hear you on that. And just doing these lives it's quite a feat of deliberateness, because yes, at the moment I am overwhelmingly busy, right? Like every second I'm doing stuff. Like, I mean, my day is full, 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 full. I'm behind. I'm backlogged on things to do. Yes. I mean, if I finish all the projects that I'm busy with, I have other projects waiting. Like I've got the books I want to finish writing, or some I've already finished writing. I just have to actually go and make the effort to publish them. But I don't have time at the moment, right? Other things are coming, but it's all good. It's all good, right? It's all wonderful. That's it. It's all good. This is very important to understand how all good it actually is. It is profoundly, wonderfully good. It is truly something magically special. Truly something magically special when you live in the all good and you can see that all good. Life changes. So we just assume it's all good. And being busy is good, right, Ramsey? Right. At least when it's good, busy. Yes. And when we understand it's all good, of course, busy is good, right? Because if we're busy, we're doing, we're learning, we're growing, right? Nothingness, not being busy, nothingness. Yeah, it's nice for a while, perhaps, but after a while, it's a bit empty. Yeah. So, so we have to be cautious there. We have to be cautious what we attend and what we aspire to. Just too wonderful, just too wonderful. Ramsey, we had a most wonderful discussion and conversation on looking at things deeper, and understanding that most of the words and concepts we not only use but think and feel and believe, we tend to only do so in a bubble, right? And yes, it's valid in the bubble, but that bubble, that understanding of that concept, has an implied understanding. But when we think about it, we say, oh, there's more. And then the bubble expands. And so either say more, the bubble expands, right? And then we get to see the various multiple perspectives. And when we think things through, sometimes we come to see that our original understanding, when we actually start to pay attention, cannot exist in the way we think it does. Cannot. It started with judgment. Oh, judgment is bad, right? You see this all the time. Don't judge, don't judge. Judgment is bad. Well, isn't that a judgment? Oh, I just judged. I just judged. Oh, I'm bad. See, it's an oxymoronic. It's a square circle conception. It cannot exist as stated. Yes, judgment is just a tool. It's not judgment itself that's bad. It's inappropriate judgment that's bad. Yes, or not valuable. Appropriate, yes, good. Right. So when we understand this, very powerful. Right. Same thing with desire. I didn't mention it earlier, but in certain parts in the world, desire is a big issue. And don't desire, have no desires, etc. It's not desire that's the problem. Desire is a tool like anything else, like judgment. It's inappropriate desire which is the problem, not desire necessarily itself, right? Because if you're desiring to have no desire, that's still a desire. It's oxymoronic. You can't live without desire. You have to have. The key is to have appropriate desire. Yes. And this is very, very powerful to understand. Yes, they will argue. Some will say, yes, you can desire to have no desire, because the desire is a tool to get rid of this desire at all and end up in silence. All right. Yes. but then you're still using desire as a tool to get to a point of no desire, right? Still appropriate. Appropriate in the now. Again, contextual appropriateness. Very important to understand this. Very, very important to understand contextual appropriateness. Yeah, appropriateness is this magical glue that ties it all together. There's very few things that are absolutes in the world, right? Like when you say don't desire, that's an absolute statement. Yes? Or always love, whatever. Anytime you make absolutes, it's very, very tricky because for every rule, there's the exception, right? But appropriateness is always appropriate because it's fluid and flexible. And it depends on context, depends on motivation, right? So appropriateness is one constant that we can always go back to. It's why the whole philosophy of appropriateness. And again, throughout the ages, it's astonishing how this concept of appropriateness is just not there. Right? It's not named, it's not utilized, it's not consciously connected to. Everybody knows the word, but they don't connect to it as a philosophy of being. It's fascinating. Fascinating. So anyway, yeah, it's something to really pay attention to, right? That's why, for me personally, my personal philosophy is called the philosophy of appropriateness. It's something that really jumped out at me as being absent in the world. It's just not there. I mean, you can go to religious texts and scriptures, and online today you can do a search of it. The word appropriateness does not appear in them. It's quite fascinating, at least as the concept, right? Now, some of the actual word literally does not even appear, but certainly not as a concept of living, as a concept where you say, what am I doing? What am I doing? Is it appropriate? Is what I am doing appropriate? Well, if you're going to ask that question, and not in the context of proper, right? You have to understand what appropriateness is. In order to answer that question, you're going to have to answer two other questions. In what context and what's my motivation? Because you can flip the context, flip the motivation, and you end up with entirely different behavior. The same behavior can be both appropriate and inappropriate depending on context and or motivation. So appropriateness is very fluid, flexible, adaptable. And that's the magic of it, right? That's why it's always appropriate to be appropriate, because you're paying attention to your surroundings and your motivations, right? And your surroundings not only physically, but spiritually, mentally, energetically, and also temporarily, right? Not as in temporarily in the sense of it's temporary, but temporarily, temporal, right? So temporal perspective, in other words, time perspective, right? Yeah, exactly. We live in a world of universally connected bubbles of different sizes. Each one is limited in a way or another. Exactly, Ramsey. The example of contextual layering that I like to do, I like to give, because again, I'm always focused on the practical. So I like a practical example that can illustrate, like a visual that can illustrate the complicated concepts like contextual layering. And the visual is when you've done your dishes and you've got dishwashing liquid in the dishes and you let the water out, right? And when the water goes out, you get that gurgling in the drain, and then some air comes up, right, from the drain after the water's gone. And now you still got that bubbly foam over the sink, the hole in the sink, right? The drain hole. And when those bubbles start to come, that's contextual layering, because it's bubbles on top of bubbles on top of, you get this little mini mountain of bubbles. Yes, some bigger, some larger, some included in others, some they all touch and connected. That is context. That is context and contextual layering, right? It's not nested like the Russian dolls. No, no, no. They sideways, they up and down. You may have to go through a couple of bubbles to get to another bubble, right? But they're all one big conglomeration of bubbles. This is context. This is context. Context is for me a absolutely profound conception. I remember the day I connected to the concept of context. There was a visual that associated it. It was a profound spiritual experience. So powerful is this understanding of context. Changes everything. Once we realize that we've been living in a world where we perceive things and we assume things to be a single context only, Oh, then when we realize there are multiple contexts and oh man, oh boy, did I get this wrong? Did I mistake this? Did I only living in a bubble and I missed so much, right? Have to be very careful of bubbles, and bubbles are fragile by their very nature. Yes. And this is the beauty of perception. It is something that we create. We create the bubble. Don't forget that. Don't forget that, right? That our bubble is fragile because it's we that make the bubble. We are the bubble machine, as it were. Yes. It's very powerful to be aware that we create our entire reality. Very, very powerful. Beena, any comments? I'm keen to end it here, just because there's a lot of pressure and time is precious, and it's such a deep conversation. I don't want to dilute it, and by going onto a whole new topic, I'd rather just start that another time.
No, it's wonderful. It's so fun.
Yeah, it is wonderful. It is wonderful. This is Nobelia-Living, stretching our understanding, stretching our awareness, stretching our discernment, stretching our application. Without application, it's almost meaningless. Keep that in mind. The story, right? Is the book one of the Biella series is called The New Nobles. This very term, the new nobles or the new nobility, it implies to most a theoretical, idealistic idea. That's the magic of the story. If you start to look at it and you understand right from the very beginning, oh, wait a second, this is a bit different to what I thought it was. It's the very opposite of what I thought it was. Almost everything about it is opposite to the way we assume it would be. In other words, that I can understand that if you just see this concept, oh, it's a story about this new nobility on this planet and all of that, you would assume it's an idealistic story. And idealistic stories, by implication, aren't particularly practical. This is the very opposite. This is idealistic, yes, but it's also intensely, intensely, intensely practical. Right? It's all about the practicality. Everything about it is all about the practicality. Doesn't matter that it's a fictional story. The practical value that can be extracted is immense. It's life-changing. As Beena keeps sharing, right? She was saying just this origin story, because that's where we are now, this chapter. She started to apply this in her daily life. Just the idea crept in and suddenly things changed. And that changed not her reality, but that of others. Her connection to the concept had the practical benefit and value and application of actually changing others through her connection to the concept. Very powerful stuff, very practical. Yeah. Moreness came into Beena's world. Oh, thank you, Beena. Thank you. Who's that? Norma. Thank you, Norma. Sorry, man. I mixed the names up. Don't hold it against me, please. You know. It's just you're all part of the allness to me. So if your names are similar, they're going to get mixed up. See, because you have that essence, that magic that is the same, the beautifulness, the wonderfulness, the moreness, the gloriousness, the awesomeness. Yeah. So I was trying to shout, thank you, Norma. I love that, Norma. I love that. Thank you, Norma. Really, really deeply thank you for being Norma. You add so much by just being Norma. Yes, very precious, Norma. You're very precious. Yes, yes. You know, I love grass, and if we look at my background, yes, this great, big, beautiful, expansive grass. I love trees. I love forests. What is the essence? The individual part that makes forests and grass and trees. Yes, it's the twig or the leaf, but mostly the leaf. Yes, the blade of grass, that's a leaf. Yes, all those trees, we see masses of leaves. All right, if they were without leaves and it's in winter, maybe then it would be masses of twigs. Yes, bigger, larger, interconnected. But my point is, it's like when you look at grass, you loving an individual component multiplied. I don't love the blade of grass any less. When we have some discernment, we have to understand the beauty, the perfection, the awesome of each blade of grass. Yes, This is us. We are blades of grass. Yes. Doesn't make any blade of grass more special than any other. It's a preposterous, ridiculous concept. This is superiority paradigm absurdity. Yes. I'm a blade of grass, and I'm thrilled and happy to be a blade of grass. And I love and appreciate every single other blade of grass. Why? Because we make these beautiful fields and lawns and forests as you know, a leaf, right? Same thing. I'm a leaf. I'm a leaf. Yeah. We're all leaves, right? Different way of perceiving the world. When we unhook from hierarchy, we can really start to appreciate and enjoy. Yes. Incredible. Incredible, the limitations of hierarchy and the limitations of trying to be special. Yeah. If you're special, you devalue the rest of the world by implication. Think about that. There's the mantra for today. Yes. If you truly are special, your specialness devalues the rest of the world. Is that a world you want to live in? Think about that. Think about that. Really deep meditation to think about the detriments of specialness and how, right, specialness devalues everything else by contrast and comparison and implication. Very powerful. All right, anything to say before we leave, Beena?
Yes.
You said yes, so I'm listening. We are all from the same. Yes. We're all the same and we're all different. It's too incredible. Sorry, what did you want to add,
It was
Beena?
breaking for me, sir.
Oh,
It was
oh, I see.
breaking for me.
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
Sorry. So that's why it was delayed. Today, it was
Oh, Beena's connection dropped there. All right. Well, we'll catch Beena tomorrow because Beena does save these points, right? They don't go, they get saved. So we'll catch Beena tomorrow and what she wants to share. Yeah. It's all connected, all connected. All right. Bye-bye, Cheryl. Bye-bye, Norma. Bye-bye, Ramsey. Love you all dearly and deeply. Yes. Look how beautiful you all are there in that magical, great big field, in that forest. Yes. We're all in there. We're all in there. It's wonderful, wonderful. Our moreness, our connectedness makes a moreness, right? 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 equals more. Bye-bye, Ramsey. Bye-bye. I'm so pleased to hear that you're here again, Ramsey. It's a joy. It's again, no pressure, obviously, always, never. But it's still a joy, right? I truly appreciate the gifts that come into my life. I never expect them, but whenever I get them, they're appreciated. Why? Because I want nothing. And when we learn to want nothing, the tiniest little thing that we do get becomes the greatest gift. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Practical application of conceptual understanding. Goodbye, Cheryl. I love the greetings, hellos and goodbye. Very special, very important, very, very, very important. Now I feel so complete. I feel replete. And I can go through my day carrying this magic with me, right? Because it's been tied together, connected with those greetings, the start and the end. Very important, very important. All right, bye-bye, everybody. End meeting for all. Next time, till next time.